Hey everybody, welcome back to A Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. I'm Joe Labriola.
And I'm Matt Wagner.
And today we're going to be talking about the 15th studio album that was released in 2010 from Iron Maiden, The Final Frontier. A little Star Trek-y sounding.
Yeah, I mean, what was your first impression when you heard the title of the album?
Pretty much like everyone else, I thought it was the last album. I thought it was the last Iron Maiden album that would be released, The Final Frontier. The word final there, you're like, oh shit,
Did you think it was going to be a Star Trek theme album?
I think it was going to be, space theme. I don't think necessarily Star Trek, but yeah. I mean, another thing that the reason why it was so shocking that I thought it was the last album too is because it was the longest gap in between albums ever. 4 years. It was 3 years for everyone. Brave New World, The Dance of Death was 2000 2003. Dance of Death, A Matter of Life and Death, 2003 2006, and then this one from 2006 to 2010. So 4 years. I mean, obviously you're going to get a later gap with Book of Soul when it comes out, but...
Yeah, I mean, we were, after A Matter of Life and Death, that was, our peak of being Maiden fans. We were, huge into Maiden. And then the Somewhere Back in Time tour happened, and we got to go see him twice, and we're, so excited about Iron Maiden, and then there's just, this gap of, nothing in between albums.
Exactly, and it was, it was scary. But, Final Frontier is a pretty, I don't want to say it's a polarizing album, but it's, some people really, really love it, and some people, from the things that I've read and some places, on forums and stuff that I've read, people don't think it's that great. Some album rankings I've seen, people rank it, near the bottom of the stuff that they've done, which I don't agree with.
Right before the Blaze Bayley stuff.
Yeah, it's right before the Blaze Bayley stuff, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's actually better than that, but let's dive into the album and talk about Satellite 15, The Final Frontier, the first track on the album.
Yeah, I mean, that Satellite 15, intro is really, really interesting. That was, probably, the most, out there thing Iron Maiden's ever, really recorded. It was, these, drums, and there's this distorted bass, and Bruce is, shouting about space and stuff.
Yeah, he's in a vacuum of space or something.
Yeah, I try to call to Earth's command, desperation in my voice. I'm drifting way off course now with very little choice, and that da-da-da-da, So, first time I ever heard it, I'm listening to this, I'm like, this is wild. This is going to lead to something really, really cool.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about that. I echo everything Matt says there, and then, the Satellite 15 part's fantastic, and then it goes into The Final Frontier, which is catchy in its own right.
It didn't. I don't think it quite lived up to the intro. It was leading to something cool, and it didn't quite.
I mean, the solo is great. Adrian's solo is fantastic. The lyrics are good, and really, you kind of have to separate them. Like Matt and I said, you expect it after hearing that Satellite 15 intro for it to be something.
It's like an album intro, which I don't think they'd ever done before, and they kind of copied it with the new album, Book of Souls, in a way, with the album intro. But I think this is the first time they ever did kind of an album intro. I'm trying to think, maybe Ides of March could be considered kind of like an album intro. This would be about it, those three.
Yeah, maybe. And that's the thing, like you said, why it's not as good as the Satellite 15 part, why the Final Frontier is. Let's talk about that second part for a while, because, like we said at the beginning, Satellite 15 has a really spooky kind of atmospheric tone. Bruce is all echoey, sounds like he's drifting through the vacuum of space. There's a little guitar tribbles, there's the bass coming in, the drums. And then you get the Final Frontier, and it's it starts off cool, and then it's really upbeat. It's a completely different direction from where you think Satellite 15 would go. Satellite 15 is really eerie, atmospheric, dark.
I guess I was expecting something more proggy.
Yeah.
And it's just a straightforward.
It's a straightforward rocker.
Yeah. I was expecting I don't know, not like Pink Floyd, but something along these lines, something a little proggy.
Yeah, something more like A Matter of Life and Death, where the intro is really slow and it gets progressive, and this where it kind of builds, and this kind of just is straightforward, like Matt said. The thing about the Final Frontier, though, is the lyrics are really cool. I mean, it's about this guy, if you listen to Satellite 15 and the Final Frontier together, who's drifting through space. He's drifting way off course. There's something going on with the spaceship. There's stuff going on. He's drifting off into, who knows, outer space, a black hole somewhere, and he basically is reflecting on his life, and he says, he lived his life to the fullest. I wish I could see my family there one more time before I die.
Little David Bowie Space Oddity?
Yeah, kind of. A little bit. I mean, it's reminiscent of that. But really, when he says, the Final Frontier, and they echo that chorus, which is kind of repetitive, I don't like that much. But
I kind of get the song is like it is like an album intro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're welcome to the Final Frontier sort of thing. Like this is the Final Frontier, or our album's like it's not a concept album, but it's thematic.
Yeah.
And this is like introducing that, and like I'm not saying that it's like bad because of that. It's just it's not inspiring really.
Yeah, the Final Frontier part isn't really inspiring at all, but the lyrics are really good, and ultimately what he's talking about in this is he's facing death. The Final Frontier,
he says about, I wish I could talk to my family to tell them one last goodbye.
Yeah, really, the Final Frontier, it's like an illusion of space as death. It's kind of what it is. Like the blackness of space is kind of like death, because there's nothing.
I really like the line with, like Icarus before me, or Sword Legend goes, I think of my life and reliving the past. I like the Icarus line. Especially with Flight of Icarus.
You know what? I want to talk about that, actually, because listening to this album the past week, before we recorded this podcast, there is so much mythological stuff in this album that I love. And I'm a huge mythology person, and I love that line, too. I was going to say that. It's my favorite line in the song. Like you said, it correlates to Flight of Icarus and all that stuff, but...
Well, it's very, very like, being like launched into space is very Icarus-like, is that he's trying to fly towards the sun, you're trying to go towards space, and then now you're like in the same position, you're in space and you're like going to burn up.
But yeah, Final Frontier, pretty good song. It's not great.
But I wouldn't say it's good. I think it's one of the worst in the album.
Yeah, it's one of the weaker ones, but yeah, I mean it's okay. It's good if you listen to the lyrics.
As like recently as their openers go, you have like they're all like kind of these like rocker songs. So I mean, it's kind of like typical of what they've been doing. They're kind of on par with Wildest Dreams or Different World.
Yeah, out of those, you're right. This is probably the weakest out of all those as well. So.
Especially like not even including like Wicker Man.
Yeah.
Or if Eternity Should Fail is definitely I think better song than this.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about El Dorado?
I actually like really like El Dorado. It has that like that cool like galloping part at the beginning with Nico with the drums, and then Steve comes with the bass. It's like classic Iron Maiden.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I especially like it because it utilizes all three of the guitarists. So everybody in the band you can hear in that song. Sometimes their songs are like you could just do it with two guitarists. You don't really need a third. But this one has that, like. Janik's doing the gallop, and then you have Adrian doing the like you can really hear all three guitars in the song. I really like it.
Let me tell you a story on a cold winter's night.
Yeah, you actually told me a couple weeks ago. You actually told me what this song's actually like really about. I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things actually. El Dorado, the city that's in Colombia. There's actually, if you guys,
I always thought it was just about like the mythological city of El Dorado.
And the thing about the mythological city, too, if you guys aren't it's in Colombia, which is in South America. There was a group of people called the Musica people, and they actually thought El Dorado was a tribal chief. His name was El Dorado. He would jump in this lake covered in gold, and they thought he had like this immense mountain of wealth somewhere. So then, legend goes, the Spaniards were like, oh, well, this is awesome. There's this guy who has a bunch of gold, but then it evolved from a guy to a city to a kingdom to an entire empire of El Dorado.
Yeah, it was almost like an Atlantis kind of myth.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's a myth. So another part that I talked about earlier with Final Frontier, the myths in there with, but really, there's a poem by Edgar Allan Poe too where he talks about El Dorado, and that's kind of where this ties into what I was going to tell Matt and what I told Matt the other day. Bruce said in an interview somewhere I read that El Dorado, the song, is actually about the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, about bankers ripping people off and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're giving them mortgages they couldn't afford.
Exactly. There's actually a line in the song. It says, "A clever banker's face with just a letter out of place." Now, if you read that line, you might not know what that is, but if you're British, you understand what that means. British, they call people wankers. That's what that means. A letter out of place. The B is supposed to be a W. You're a wanker.
He's a wanker.
That's what it means. If you don't know what a wanker is, in Britain, it's somebody who plays themselves. Is what it means. So it's like when you're playing with yourself.
It's basically, if you're American, it's like a jerk off.
Yeah,
you're a jerk.
You're a jerk. You're a jerk off. That's what it is exactly. But that's where it comes from.
But I thought that was kind of cool. It's a really good metaphor.
Yeah.
El Dorado for the financial crisis.
Yeah, exactly. And the beginning of it, where he says that line I just said, "Tell you a story on a cool winter's night, you'll be selling for glory." Bruce wrote the lyrics to this, and he correlates it to the myth too, because the only way you could get into El Dorado was by boat. In the myth, so you'll be sailing for glory. It's pretty cool how he ties that in, and I like the lyrics too. Just they're just great. I mean, Eldorado, Streets of Gold, Where the Ship is Oversold, You Got Last Chance to Try. I mean, it's awesome.
It has a very cool sound to the song. Really, really fits the album a lot. Even though the album's kind of like space themed, it does like have that. This whole album has really good production. I think it has production that fits the album. It has like a way different production than A Matter of Life and Death did, and it has different production than Book of Souls will. Like it was kind of cool how they like have made it its own unique sound to it.
Yeah, and I like how you say that too, because you said it was like a space album. This kind of isn't, but in a way it is, because they kind of allude to this as like Eldorado being like sort of a space station kind of thing too. I think
that's another thing I kind of thought was Eldorado is like some space station, because when we saw the Final Frontier tour, we saw it before they released the album. They did like a New Era tour where they played songs off of Brave New World to one song off of Final Frontier, which was this song Eldorado. So that's the only song we ever got to see live off of the Final Frontier album. And I thought it worked great because they had like the space station set. I thought it really, really worked.
Yeah, I think it was a well done song.
Not that this song's great. It's just it's a good song. It's a good middle of the pack song to have on your album. Your album needs songs like this.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it too. It's strong, not amazing by
but compared to like Speed of Light on the next album, it's way better.
Absolutely. And Bruce is just such a master storyteller. The way he starts songs off and tells things, and how he ties everything in. I mean,
all his stories are like storytelling or mythology based or something.
And later in this album, we'll get to even more of that, because this album has a lot of it. And a beautiful thing about the song Eldorado is it's so ambiguous. It could be about the space station. It could be about the Edgar Allan Poe poem. It could be about the mythical city. It could be about the financial crisis. It could be about all of them together. It could be bits and pieces, and that's what's so great about the song.
Yeah.
The ambiguity. What about Mother of Mercy?
Yeah, I think it's definitely like one of the weaker songs on the album. It's probably like my second or third least favorite song on this album.
Yeah.
I mean, it like the chorus is kind of like annoying to me.
Mother of Mercy, Angel of Death,
he sings that like really high.
Mother of Mercy.
I think like the verse part's actually kind of cool with the guitars and everything. It has a spacey feel that the other songs on the album did. It had that really cool production. And then it like builds up to this chorus, and then it's just Bruce, screaming "Mother of Mercy."
Another thing I like about this too is this song, along with the Final Frontier and Satellite 15 song, and to an extent Eldorado, carry over that notion of religion a lot. What are you doing with your religion? This is one of those songs in the vein of like Afraid to Shoot Strangers, Passchendaele. Not on the same scale or epicness, but like the lyric and subject matter is. Yeah. It's about, people go to war for what? Like, what are you doing? For the Greater Good of God's another song it kind of correlates to. Mother of Mercy, Angel of Death Desire, Mother of Mercy. Who is the Mother of Mercy? I mean, who is it?
I do like the line, why are we here in this place, here to kill?
Yeah. Please
God forgive us for what we have done.
Yeah.
I always thought I was doing right, as now I'm not so sure. So, like, I like the... I guess I like the feeling of the song. I like some of the lyrics, and then the chorus is kind of a letdown. The song really never goes anywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just not much. There's just not a lot to it. It's kind of it's a subpar song.
I'm a soldier of war.
It almost sounds like it should be on like the X Factor.
Yeah, it does have a very X Factory sound to it. I agree with you there.
And it's kind of darker. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't really have like a lot to say like good about it.
Another thing about it too, he says "Angel of Death." And I find that funny, too, because it talks about death again.
It says, Mother of Mercy, Angel of Death, Desire.
Yeah.
Mother of Mercy, tasting my last breath of fire. Mother of Mercy, Angel of Pain. Mother of Mercy, take my last breath. So Mother of Mercy, is that like an angel? Like,
maybe.
Like coming to take you away?
Could be the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Maybe. Correlating to that, I'm innocent, what am I here for? Like you... I came to this war because I wanted to help somebody. I didn't do anything wrong, and now I'm dying. Everybody around me is dying. Isn't there a line there that says, soldiers move and dying, or something like that? Bodies move and dying. There's a line in there about, he's seeing all these people get killed and all this warfare going around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
It definitely doesn't live up to, like, your, Passchendaels or your war epics that they've done. I mean, it really doesn't.
Yeah, it's just one of those war epics on the album that kind of, it lacks the...
I wouldn't even call it epic. It's kind of lack epicness. It's a problem.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what it is. You know, it's they try to do something like they did before, and it just doesn't translate on this album.
Well, this is a good part to mention that this album is really poorly weighted.
Oh yeah.
All the bad songs or the subpar songs are at the beginning of the album, and all the good songs are the middle or late of the album.
Exactly.
So I mean, I think that's a problem with the album. Is to have a good album, you should have it'd be more balanced, and this album definitely is balanced.
Yeah, this album's actually really bottom heavy. That's where all the stuff is, like you said. The top is kind of weak.
You know, we did Brave New World, which is strong top to bottom. We did Dance of Death, which spaced out their hits a little more, and then you get to Matter of Life and Death, which did the same thing. It kind of had your good songs spaced out.
Yeah.
And this is they're all bunched together in the end.
Yeah, I mean, Silent 15 is 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Eldorado is 6:50. Mother Mercy's 5 minutes 20 seconds, and then the next song is Coming Home.
I like Coming Home. I don't think it's a bad song, but again, it's not it's not a hit. It's not one of your strong songs off the album. It's another middle of the pack song. So now we're we start out here. It's with the fourth song, and they're all kind of middle of the pack or less. It's kind of it's a little weak.
Yeah, Coming Home, I do like it a lot, though. It's kind of like a modern-day Wasted Years, almost. Not as good as Wasted Years, but it has that same kind of...
It's good. Next podcast, we're going to talk about In Vivo, in our... yeah, so, I mean, I think it's good in there. I think it's better live, probably.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not, something that's going to blow you away.
Exactly. And this is kind of where Bruce starts putting in his... I mean, this is about Bruce flying the Ed Force One.
Yeah.
And this is about him going from continent to continent, flying around, and he says, to Albion's land, coming home. Albion is the word for England.
It was the mythological, way back in the day.
Term for England. So he's talking about going home after he's flying a plane around the world. But he talks about, it's a fan song too. It's like a thank you for letting me go to all these places around the world. Thank you for letting me see all these people and reach so many fans and live this amazing life. But he, at the end of the day, the old saying, home is where the heart is, home sweet home. He's happy to be home at the end of the day after everything.
Yeah, I really like the lyrics in this song. Mm-hmm. Curving on the edge of daylight till it slips into the void. Waited till the long night, dreaming till the sun is born again. Stretch my fingers of my hand, covered countries with my span, just a lonely satellite, speck of dust in cosmic sand. Yeah, Bruce is really, really good at writing lyrics, and this is another one. Especially if stuff he's actually passionate about, you kind of see steps up a little bit.
In terms of music in these first couple songs, the music in all of them is really, really good. Downsides, Final Frontier, like we said, is kind of straightforward. Mother of Mercy is kind of dark and doesn't really have anything that builds either. Coming Home is unique. It's also kind of straightforward though too. It's not really. It's proggy in its own way, but it's
simple. So yeah, it's kind of simplistic.
It's simple. These first couple songs on the album are pretty simple.
We just came from Matter of Life and Death, where you're getting all these really interesting progressive songs. It goes through a bunch of changes and melodies and all this stuff. You have choruses and pre-choruses and post-choruses, and then you get into this, and it's just kind of straightforward.
Yeah, the first four songs on here are really straightforward.
You were thinking this is going to be the most progressive album they've ever done, and so far it's not.
Especially because you think it's the last album. You're oh, what are they going to do,
I don't know if I was so sure it was going to be the last one, but
I thought...
Steve always said that he pictured they'd only do 15 albums, and this was the 15th one, so...
Yeah, that's another thing, too,
Yeah.
The Alchemist.
Yeah, this is my least favorite song on the album, so... Now you're getting from, a couple, average to mediocre songs to, what I consider, a bad song.
I like The Alchemist. I mean, it's not as good as the first four that came before it, but for me, it's a nostalgia thing, I have to be honest. The music, like Matt said, yeah, I mean, it's not that great. It's kind of really... It's really fast.
It sounds like it should have been on Dance of Death.
Yeah, it does have a Dance of Deathy sound to it. But I like the subject matter. If you guys don't know what The Alchemist is about, John Dee was a servant of Elizabeth I in England. He thought he could speak with angels. There was a thing called Enochian that was a language you could talk to angels. Enoch was the first human that was ever formed, so he figured he was the first human. Enochian was the language of the angels. The first human could speak to angels. There's a guy named Edward Kelly, you can hear it in the song, who basically told John Dee that he could actually talk to these things because John Dee was so interested in them. And he believed Edward Kelly, and they had crystal balls, and they thought they could summon these angels. But the only way Edward Kelly would tell John Dee the secrets and teach him the ways of Enochian as if he let him sleep with his wife. So they actually did do that, and yeah. Anyway, John Dee got screwed over big time, and
his wife got screwed over even more.
Yeah, by Ed Kelly. Eventually, he kicks Edward Kelly out, but then John Dee loses everything. Somebody breaks into his house later in his life and burns all of his books and takes all of his work, and he loses all of his money, and he basically dies like a poor person. He dies in poverty, which is a shame, but honestly, he's a really prominent mind. I mean, he's responsible for really helping, push forward the British Empire in a lot of ways by serving Elizabeth I.
Well, a lot of those, pseudosciences back in the day did eventually lead to, real scientific development. Mm-hmm. Alchemy leads to chemistry. Mm-hmm. Astrology led to astronomy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even though, we look back on the day, now, and, laugh or scoff at, some of the pseudosciences, you don't know in a couple hundred years, maybe they'll sit here and laugh at us for our scientific endeavors, too.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up, too, because later in the album, they really talk about that, too, with a certain song. We'll get to that. But, yeah, I want to keep that in mind. This song is a lot about science and mythology. This album, has a lot to do with science and mythology and the ideas of religion and what's it mean. So.
One of my big, I think, issues with this song came from the fact that Bruce Dickinson's solo album
had a song called The Alchemist.
Yeah, Chemical Wedding, and that song is about 1,000,000 times better than this one.
Yeah, it definitely is better than this.
That whole album is, and that's what I kind of like. When I first saw it, I'm like, The Alchemist, he already had a song called The Alchemist, and I was kind of expecting a little bit more, and this yeah. I guess that's kind of disappointing.
Well, John Dee, man, what are you gonna do? he got screwed over, I said,
literally.
The Alchemist. But I mean, this is a Yannick song. Adrian Smith did first song. He did Sally 15. He did El Dorado. He did Mother Mercy and Coming Home. That was all Adrian. This is the first one that Ian did. And
I mean, we love Adrian and his songwriting, but he kind of didn't really start off with anything stellar.
Yeah, he makes up for it as we go later on. Some of the lyrics in the song I really do like. My dreams of empire for my frozen queen have come to pass. Know me, the magus. I am Dr. D, and this was my house. I like that. I do like the end one, too. He's like, I was the master of the scroll. I do like that part. I mean, that's pretty cool. My dreams of empire for my frozen queen will come to pass. I like that.
Yeah, but it's just a really generic song.
That's the thing about this album, too. I think I can touch on your point, too. You listen to the first 4 songs and everything is so generic, except for that intro part to Satellite 15. And you're so disappointed from Final Frontier not taking off from Satellite 15 in the direction that you want it to. I'm the same way. And then you're figuring, alright. Then you get El Dorado, and you're like, alright, not too bad. Still, I mean, not amazing. A good song. Then after that, you get Mother Mercy. You get Coming Home. Then by The Alchemist, you're like, really? What happened to Iron Maiden? This is all straightforward, rocker stuff. There's no epics on this album.
They should have put, one of their better songs. There's probably, 3 or 4 really good songs in this album. They should have put one of them at, spot 3.
Yeah.
So you start off with Satellite 15, Final Frontier, and go to El Dorado, and then you put it, one of the good songs, and then you have Coming Home, and then you have, whatever, Mother Mercy, or whatever order you want to put it in. Mm-hmm. And then you do another great song. So you kind of
bounce.
Yeah, and that this way, how many times have you listened to this album where you listen to all, the first, 4 or 5 songs straight through?
Exactly. That's going to have an effect on listening.
I can't remember the last time I, sat here and listened to that album without skipping that song so far.
Well, like I said, I listened to the whole thing recently.
Unless you, force yourself to do it.
Because of the podcast, for that purpose. But initially, before, when this album first came out, I was a little upset.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed.
The first 5 songs, like you said, I was like, man, really, what happened? And then
I was expecting, from A Matter of Life and Death, I was expecting, that art of progressiveness and evolution to continue, and it, didn't so far on the album anyway.
Yeah, and it's not that these songs are, super, super bad. These songs aren't, No Prayer level. These songs aren't, Fear of the Dark level, Virtual 11 level. They're still, good songs.
They're even better than most of, the average songs on the X Factor.
Exactly.
So,
but these kind of songs are the stuff on, Dance of Death, for instance, the Monsegors and the Rainmakers and that kind of stuff. This is what these songs are kind of like. It's just too many of them.
Yeah.
On Dance of Death, there was Monsegor and Rainmaker. On this, there's, 3 or 4 of the same song. A straightforward rocker, so. But they make up with that when they talk about the next song. One of my favorite songs on the album, because I'm a huge mythology person. I love it. This is an Adrian Smith song as well. He writes it with Steve. This is the Isle of Avalon.
Yeah, I think this is like the first, obviously, like the first like really good song on the album, and it's like really progressive, like something different.
It is, and I love it. Just a little history lesson, guys, because I'm a historian and I love mythology. If you guys didn't know, the Isle of Avalon is the Isle of Fruit. That's what it translates to in Welsh. Basically, an Arthurian legend. This is where Excalibur was made, on the Isle of Avalon. If you read any stuff from, Geoffrey Monmouth or later Sir Thomas Mallory about Arthurian legend, King Arthur, there's a battle he fights there's different versions of this. Mordred is either his nephew or his illegitimate son to his half-sister through incest. What happens is after the Battle of Camlan, it's called, Arthur goes to Avalon to get healed and live. Mordred dies. Really cool. I mean, I love that, because I never really... You think a British band would write a song about British mythology, and this is really the first time they've ever done anything like that with Arthurian legend, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I like the intro, like with the drums and the guitar. It has like a very like spacey mythology feel to it. Mm-hmm. Like it's very like I can almost imagine like a sea, like you're on the island, like you can hear like the ocean almost.
Yeah. And the thing that's great about that too is, another thing you bring up, man, a really good point, the sea. Space in itself is like a sea. We talk about how the album at the beginning, The Final Frontier, is kind of like Star Trek. Like in Star Trek, they're taking spaceships. Like the USS Enterprise is a ship. It sails through the stars and the sea. And that's another theme about this album. The El Dorado thing. You can only enter El Dorado by boat. Final Frontier, he's in a spaceship. Mother of Mercy, he's on a battlefield somewhere. That one doesn't really tie in with the naval thing. But Coming Home does. He talks about flying over bodies of water or oceans or coasts.
Yeah, they all have about traveling in them. Yeah. Even Mother of Mercy he goes off the war. He takes a voyage that way.
Yeah, voyages and things like that. It's a prominent theme through here. And Avalon, Bruce says in the song, the head of Anwen is in there. Anwen is the Welsh otherworld. And the otherworld in Celtic mythology is like the realm of the deities, kind of like in Norse mythology where they have, Asgard or Olympus in Greek mythology. The otherworld is where the deities and the dead live, or in the afterlife. And in Gaelic and Brittonic mythology, if you went to the otherworld, it represented you would have like everlasting youth, joy, beauty, your health would be great, and there would be an abundance of everything. You would get there, like Matt said, these people would go to ancient burials, or they would go to caves, or go underwater across the Western Sea, which I thought was interesting because it reminds me of J.R. Tolkien. And even if you listen to Led Zeppelin, the song Stairway to Heaven, there's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for leaving. This whole illusion of mythology that the west is where the dead go, and that's
I think it comes from like the west is where the sun sets, so the sun dies in the west and it's born in the east. So I think that's like when you say about going to the west, it means like you're dying, or some part of you is dying, or you're transforming. It's a transformation.
And the whole part, the lyrics in the song, like fertility, mother goddess, celebration, sow the seeds of the born, fruit of her body laden through the corn dough, you will pray for them all. That's like a pagan ritual of
it's very pagan,
celebrating,
very pagan-y song.
Yeah,
talking about fertility, mother goddess.
Yeah, I mean it's talking about, and then they talk about I hear them crying, tears of an angel, that kind of stuff.
Voices I hear in my head, bless the fruits of the corn of the earth, Mother Earth, holy blood of the dead.
Yeah, and even at the beginning he's like, I can hear them floating on the wind, immortal souls, their weeping saddens me. And
it's a very cool cool sounding song. I wish they would have did it live. I'm not sure how well it would have worked live, but I would have liked to have heard it. The drums and the bass and just everything it's really cool. One of those songs on the album has really cool production.
Yeah, I like when he says, "Bring me to the Isle of Avalon. I can hear them flowing through my veins. My heart is beating louder, close to Avalon." I mean,
and it has one of the coolest choruses on the album too. I mean, it's not like saying "The Final Frontier" over and over again, or "Mother of Mercy."
Yeah, it's an amazing song. I love the song. It's fantastic.
You can tell they put some work into it.
It's definitely epic. And again, it has that theme of death. This guy wants to go to the other world. He wants to go to Avalon. He wants to live forever. He realizes that, whatever I did here in this life, it's over, and I want to go live forever. I've done what I need to do, and that's what it's about. But I love it. I love the lyrics. The guitar solos in it are incredible. Very proggy sounding guitars. Reminds me of Somewhere in Time in a lot of places.
Yeah, they should have put this song at like the third spot. To open the album, like you have Final Frontier, you have Eldorado, and then it's like, okay, this is what our album's going to be about. We're going to have these epics. They're going to be about death and life and journeys, and this is our album. Then you have, Mother Mercy and Coming Home, and then you do another epic. So, like, I don't know what they were thinking when they did the final track listing, but it just, you kind of, like, put everybody to sleep for the first, like, 4 songs, and then you're like, oh, no, this is actually a cool song here.
Exactly. I mean, and when I first heard this, too, I was blown away. I loved this song from the beginning, and really...
Yeah, it was kind of like you're listening to this album the first time, and you're like, okay, all right, like where's the cool stuff? And it's like, oh, here's some cool stuff.
But I love it. I love everything about the song. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's up there.
It's probably like it's probably my third or fourth favorite. It's definitely one of the better ones.
Love it. Thank you, Adrian, for your progressive influence yet again. Where he, Adrian wrote stuff with Steve. He did Satellite 15 with Steve. He did Eldorado with Steve and Bruce. He did Mother Mercy with Steve. I think Steve is coming up with the lyrics on this, and Adrian's trying to write parts to fit the lyrics. So I don't blame Adrian, but I think on Isle of Avalon, Adrian is unleashing his potential here. This is a song that he came up with the riff. He came up with some of the lyrics. This is like the Somewhere in Time.
Yeah, this is like that progression that he wanted from back in the day.
And this, another reason why you said, man, why this album is so, like, listenability wise is kind of disappointing is because you don't have that progressive stuff in the early songs. Adrian, thank you, man. Isle of Avalon kicks ass. If you guys listen to the album,
yeah, if you gave up on the album after like the first like couple songs, like we've been talking about, like how like they weren't very good, like give the album like another go. At least listen to some of the songs off the album.
Amazing.
Good ones. Yeah.
And then from here, it just kicks ass.
Yeah, now the album's like, oh, okay, now we're like into the cool part of the album.
Absolutely. The next song, man, Star Blind.
Yeah, this is definitely like the best, or at least, the very least, the second best song on the album. It's amazing. It's a tour de force, and this is like a song that sounds nothing like anything Iron Maiden did before or since.
Again, my boy, Adrian Smith, coming in with the prog.
Yeah, this is what the album should have sounded like. 10 of the songs should have been like this kind of stuff. Like, it's heavy, it's got a great riff, it's got amazing lyrics, Bruce sings his ass off.
Adrian has about 5 solos in the song.
Yeah, they're all amazing.
Amazing.
There's like, I mean, we could sit here and talk all day about the song. This is definitely like one of the top, I don't know, 5 at least, maybe songs since the reunion. I mean, it's really up there.
It is, man. I love the lyrics, like you said. Just echo everything you said. I love the lyrics. This song is, again, about a guy questioning his life. Starblind with sun. He's talking about the stars fading away. Like, everything's going black. He's on his deathbed. He's trying to transcend time and space. He says, take my eyes and see my life as I've seen it.
Yeah, just about, like, the idea of being starblind. In mountain climbing, if you go like really high on a mountain, UV rays from the sun affect you more than they would at the bottom. They're like 10 times or 20 times as strong, depending on how high up you are, and you can get what they call snowblind. And I think that's what this song is, but in space. You're journeying through space, and you get starblind, and now you can't see. And I guess that's kind of like what I always thought about when I heard like kind of like starblind. It's kind of like snowblind, but in space.
Yeah, I can see that. I think to another point too. I think it goes back to kind of like what we were talking about with Eldorado. There's ambiguity to it because the song's so ambiguous. My favorite line in the song says, "You are free to choose a life to live or one that's left to lose." It's for me, it's about this guy. He might be in space. It could very well be a setting in space where he's. Yeah. It could be the same character in the Final Frontier, the same guy.
Yeah, it could be the story continued. I like the part. You may pass through me and leave no trace. I have no mortal face. Yeah. Solar winds are whispering. You may hear me call.
And I think what that part is I think it's a critique on religion. He's saying all this stuff that you guys have been following, because in the song he talks about religious dogmas and how they're like oppressing people and all this stuff. And he's saying, I'm better than that. I want to go beyond that. I want to go outside of my body, outside of this world. I don't have a mortal face. Religion or your beliefs aren't. You can't put an icon to that. It's what you believe. It's your own niche. It's your spirit. It's inside of you. I think that's part of it too.
I think like another thing I think the song could possibly be about is there was this sci-fi book called Star Maker, and it was about this guy who left his body and like took like a spiritual journey through the cosmos. He started at the Earth. He was just sitting on a hill, and then he left his body, and he looked down, and he saw it, and he took the whole journey through space. And that's kind of like the kind of feeling I get when I look at the lyrics, like left the elders to their parley meant to satisfy our lust, leaving Damocles all hanging over all their promised trust, walked away from freedoms offered by their jailers in their cage, stepped into the light, start tripping over mortals in their rage. Like, I think he's like leaving, the bonds of Earth, either in a spaceship or like spiritually. I'm not sure, like, if he's like evolving into a spiritual being.
Yeah, I think it's about evolution. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about, especially that line you said with Damocles. I think it is about the evolution because I think he realizes,
we could shed our skins and swim into the darkened void.
There's more out there than just Earth. Things that are here that people come up with, this man-made stuff, isn't really real. It's what you go out to and what you experience in life. Like the line with Damocles. You guys know the story of Damocles. He was some courtier in a court in ancient Syracuse, okay? There was this Greek guy named Dionysus II who was the ruler of that. And Damocles was in court one day, and he was like, "Oh, let me sit in your throne. I can do what you do." And Dionysus was like, "Yeah, go ahead. Sit there." Damocles sat down. He's having a great time. He's having a great time just talking with everybody in the court, thinking he's on top of the world, thinking he knows everything because he feels safe around all these people who are really just people who don't give a shit. And then Dionysus looks up, and he points to a sword above it, and he goes, "Look up there." And the sword's only hanging by horsehair. And Damocles is like, "Oh shit, I don't want to be you anymore." And basically what Dionysus is saying is, you have no idea what it's like to be a ruler, to have all this responsibility. You're just going through life thinking that everything's handed to you. You're going to have this if you pray, if you do this, when really you have to work for what you want. You have to become something more. Like you said, evolution.
So like, if Damocles is that idea of something hanging over you that could kill you at any moment, that kind of like stress, always being stressed out. That's why he couldn't sit there. He's stressed that this sword's going to fall on him.
Exactly.
So he's leaving Damocles still hanging over all their promised trust. So he's going out on his own. He's leaving Earth, or his own mortality, his own skin, and he's leaving it all behind to venture the cosmos.
Another line in the song I like is, "Virgins in the teeth of God are meat and drink to feed the damned." That to me is another religious connotation. It's the Muslim connotation of 72 virgins. Like, there is no virgin. Basically saying is like, you might think that there are virgins there, but you're not. When you die, you're gone. Live your life to the fullest now and do what you want to do, and don't buy into all this stuff, because there might not be 72 virgins at the end. I think this is like Steve. This is like part of Steve talking again, like through some of the stuff with the songs like Infinite Dreams that he talks about, where he's, he doesn't know what's out there. And he's thinking, like, you know what? Don't take religion for face value. Look through your own eyes, or look through my eyes. Like, look through and see the world as, like, through yourself, not other people's.
Yeah, like the line, "The preacher loses face with Christ, religious cruel device is gone.
Yeah.
Empty flesh and hollow bones, make pacts of love, but die alone."
Yeah, you die alone. When you die, what happens?
I'm not sure if it's, like, if he's so much saying, like, I think he's like talking about like organized religion. He's not talking about anybody's like spiritual beliefs. He's saying about putting your faith in a priest or a preacher.
Let me clarify that just for people out there who are going to bash me. I don't mean your religion or your beliefs in general. I mean organized religion and organized beliefs that tell you have to do this, and this, or you're going to go here, here, here. That's the kind of stuff Steve's talking about. Yeah. He's not talking about spirituality or anything like that. He's talking about organized religion. That's what I was talking about, organized religion. Not that it's bad. I mean, if you follow it, okay, but that's just the meaning of the song, but the song is amazing. The solos are amazing. Everything about the song is amazing. I mean, we just sat there and analyzed the lyrics for 10 minutes. They're incredible. It's my favorite song on the album. It's my favorite song on the album by far.
Yeah, I love the line too. Like, "Take my eyes for what I've seen. I will give my sight to you. You're free to choose whatever life to live or life to lose.
Yeah,
whatever God before. You know, He knows you better than you believe. In your once and future grave,
you'll fall endlessly deceived." Exactly. That's the whole religious thing I'm talking about.
I love that, like, solo, too, where he does, like, I love the part with the guitar where it's, like, light, and it's, like, going back into, like, the main riff, that little, couple licks that Adrian does with his solo is, like, really cool.
It's amazing.
Like
some of his best, it's really some of his best solo stuff since Somewhere in Time, in my opinion. I love it. I mean, he has amazing solos on all the reading and stuff.
It's probably the song I listen to the most off this whole album.
Yeah, me too.
At least consistently, yeah.
I'll have one too. I listen to it a lot.
It's a song. This is a song that like doesn't ever really get old. It has like all those interesting things about it: the lyrics, the music. There's little parts you can pick out over and over again. It's not a song like Mother Mercy where you hear it like twice and you kind of get it. This is a song that you can listen to, 50 times and still like think it's interesting.
Yeah, I probably listened to it hundreds of times and I still love it.
Yeah, never skipped this when it came on.
This song made me, like I said, I was kind of disgruntled about the album the first time I listened to it all the way through, and then listened to it again.
Well, it's what kind of makes this album like hard to like when we finally do give it a grade. It's like, well, we have all these kind of like mediocre to average songs, and then you have some like really great songs. It's kind of hard to grade. It is.
After Starblind, The Talisman.
Yeah, this is probably like
amazing.
A lot of people, this is either their favorite or their second favorite song on the album. But I think it's, without a doubt, the two best songs on the album are back to back.
Oh, yeah. And again, when we talked about like El Dorado and Bruce's storytelling, the way he sings this song is just
This is like
amazing.
The best storytelling that they do, I think, on the album. Like classic Maiden. This is kind of like how Janik did Dance of Death. This is like how he did The Legacy in the future when he does Book of Souls. This is in that framework that start out with acoustic guitar slow, tells a story, great guitars, solos, everything. It has like the whole package that Janik's kind of like
amazing.
Yeah, he's come to do over and over. Even going back to Ghost of the Navigator is kind of like in that.
Yeah.
This is kind of like this album's Ghost of the Navigator, except it's probably like a better song.
And we talk about sailing again, which about voyaging.
Yeah.
Talisman.
Either in space or on land or, metaphorically, spiritually.
And another thing I love about it is it harkens back to Isle of Avalon. When we talked about how they got to the Isle of Avalon, if you go underwater to the west, the lyric in the song is "Westward the tide." I mean, it's just...
Yeah, I love the lyrics. When I stand and look about the port, I contemplate my life. Will I ever see my countrymen again? As the captain calls us on the deck, I take my things and walk to the harbor side. I glance back one last time. Like, that kind of like...
Nations of problems we leave.
I think they're going on like... I don't know if it's like, like an armada, or if they're like...
You know what I just thought? Just sitting here talking while you hearing those lyrics, and what I was thinking about. You know how we said this album isn't really a concept album? You know what? I think it kind of is, to a certain extent. But you know what? You know what I think it's about? Honestly, I think it's about this guy who's traveling to all these different places through time. Man, it's like a really no. Seriously, think about it. Every single song on this album so far is talking about like I.
Yeah, they're all like individuals.
It's is it about a time traveler? Like that book you mentioned. Is it about that guy?
Oh, like Star Maker.
Is it something like that? Is it something about a guy or an entity or some person traveling through all these different
places?
Guys,
you want to go out there? It's by Olaf Stapleton. It's called Star Maker. It's one of the original science fiction novels of the 20th century. It's really, really cool. Okay,
let's think about it. Let's just recap so far. We're on Talisman.
So you got the Final Frontier. He's in space. Maybe the Final Frontier guy hits like a wormhole.
Maybe.
Takes him to El Dorado.
All right, yeah, listen. Here's some lines from the songs as we go. I'm stranded in space and lost in no trace, right? El Dorado. Let me tell you a story of a cool winter's night. You'll be selling for glory before you know what is right. Mother of Mercy. My last breath of fire. He's dying, right?
He went off the war, right?
He went off the war. Coming home. Far away. I see the runway lights. I mean, obviously it's about Bruce, but if you think about it and you're looking at it from a person's perspective, coming home from the war. Interesting. Maybe that's why they put that after Mother Mercy. The Alchemist, talking to angels. Maybe he's telling a story about John Wardina or Kelly, and he's somebody in the court.
Yeah, I think the Alchemist is the one that doesn't fit so far, but yeah.
Then Isle of Avalon, it's about death again, going to the outtake,
reincarnation, rejuvenation, all that kind of
I can hear them floating on the wind. Mortal souls, their weeping saddens me. Starblind, when you talk about that transcendent experience, about going out of your body somewhere else, about death, and then the Talisman, like we just said, that line you just said, will I ever see my countrymen again, is almost the exact same idea as will I ever see my family again in the Final Frontier.
Yeah, taking the journey.
It's the same thing. Really interesting. It's the first time I actually sat here and really, really got that after we were talking about it.
I think this song is like about, like they sell off and they get to a point where they don't see any land around them. and they hit a storm, and like off in the distance, a dark cloud approaching. None could imagine what there was to come. No, there's no one going back. No, there's no second chance to strap into the side. We pray to God that we won't die.
As we sail the rough seas as we head towards the ocean winds.
I just hope for all our lives and pray that I survive. 4 ships are lost in the stormy conditions. The spirits in the sunken crews, their phantoms follow us.
The spirits of the sunken crews, their phantoms follow us. There we go again. It's about dead. It's Isle of Avalon touching again. The spirits are there. I mean, when in Starblind, he talks about solar winds are whispering. You can hear the sirens of the dead. He says that in that song. Solar winds are whispering. You can hear the sirens of the dead. It's just about transitioning. I mean, this is really deep stuff. I mean, if we're talking about this album and we're saying it's not a concept, yeah, it's not. But maybe to a certain extent, I mean, there's a lot of tying songs together in this. A lot. In the lyrics. Even more so than some of the other reunion albums. I don't think any of the other reunion albums have done this. This is very progressive in that way, of tying stuff together like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, I don't think the album's like a concept album. I just think it's thematic with journeying and stuff. I'm not sure, like, I buy your theory of it being, like, the same guy going over and over, but I think it's, like, the same concept of it, of journeying. And, like, A Matter of Life and Death was about life and death, war, religion. This album's about, Final Frontier, taking a voyage, taking a journey, whether that's to war, whether that's to some mythical city called El Dorado, whether that's in space to the stars, whether that's, in this song, heading westward, you're thinking, like, leaving Spain or Britain or something and going on a voyage to the new land. I think it's like...
Yeah, but even, I mean, I love how it ties. You're right, it is thematic. But
or coming home, you're taking a voyage around the earth.
Think about leaving Spain or Britain and going to the new world. That's where El Dorado was. I think it's kind of cool how they kind of tied those things together.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure. I don't think it's like the same dude per se, but I don't know. I can't... They never said one way or the other.
Yeah. Another thing about this, where he says, in the Talisman, where he says, the part where he talks about, are we just Jonah? That's another myth, biblical myth, story of Jonah, I think it's, like I said, myth is, like, prevalent throughout this album.
The ship of fools is sinking and the cracks begin to grow. There is no easy way for an honest man today, which is something you should think of as my lifeboat sails away.
That's El Dorado. El Dorado come and play.
So, I mean, like, I kind of understand, like, how you say about the Talisman's about going to the west, El Dorado's in the west.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, they sat down and they wrote this album in a couple weeks, right? They got together and they wrote it all. So, obviously, they had stuff on their mind, and that's what came out in the song. So, it might not even been like a conscious thing that they did. It could have been a subconscious thing.
Maybe. I think, though, all the connectivity that we just talked about, I think they did it on purpose. I think Bruce had a little gimmick and he goes, let's see if people get this, I do.
I don't buy it, but necessarily like 100%,
but Talisman is amazing.
And they jumbled the order of all the songs too.
yeah, that's true. Talisman is a great song though in its own right. Even if it
maybe you could rework the album and put all the songs in order of
historical significance, historical time periods.
See if it works.
Amazing.
Talisman. Yeah, I mean, I think it has talking about the actual like music in the song. Like, it has one of Janek's best solos.
Absolutely.
Janek's not, as solo proficient as Adrian and Dave is all the time, but this is one of his better ones.
And since reunion, he's really started to do a lot of stuff like Adrian does. He starts off with really slow compositions, and then it builds and builds and builds into something that's epic. The only thing that's different about Adrian and Yannick, that's a pretty prime thing, is Adrian is pretty progressive when he does it. He's like into like a real synthy, spacey kind of sounding guitar, where Yannick usually does like an acoustic beginning and it builds into something.
It's more mythology kind of sounding, more because he did Dream of Mirrors, then he did Dance of Death, and he did The Legacy. Now he does The Talisman. They're all kind of similar songs.
Yeah, and it turns out to be awesome, an amazing song. Probably one of the best songs on the album. Maybe my second favorite on the album.
Yeah, I think without a doubt the second best one on the album.
Then after that, we go to The Man Who Would Be King, Dave Murray.
Yeah, Davey song. It's a very progressive song too, though.
It is.
It's a different way than any other stuff. It's like he has a solo, and it has like a bunch of delay in it, and it's like really out there.
It's a great solo.
Yeah.
Solo.
It's kind of like, it's probably the most unique solo he's ever done.
It is. It's a really unique song, too. It's really, it kind of reminds me of like a prog rock sounding song almost.
Like from the 70s, like some obscure prog rock band
like
in the 70s.
Something like Yes or something would do, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it really has that kind of sound. And
another look, first line of the song. As he travels on a beast of burden, moving up alongside the mountainside, he gazes, looking down the valley, no regrets but his pride. The lyrics of the song kind of remind me of The Nomad, too, another Davey song.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have that vibe.
As he journeys across mountain passes, insignificance sweeps overhead, his reflection of the beauty around him, feeling empty inside. Very similar themes to the other stuff. I know Davey doesn't write lyrics, so this isn't Davey writing the lyrics, but whoever did, like, has, I'm guessing Steve probably wrote the lyrics, has a very, that kind of like traveling, taking a journey, kind of feel to it.
I like the line where it says, only has this one chance to get it right. Living really is the only way to know. And then he goes into maybe one day I'll forgive him for what he's done with all the pain of lying too early in the grave. Destiny, no good to hide away. Hear us now will be his only way. Understand, no good to run away. Hear us now will be his saving grace. Is he talking about the afterlife? Is he hearing spirits? Is he like wishing he was gone? Does he want to be saved? What is this about? Is it another otherworld thing?
Well, I think it's almost like he's taken, he's done something bad, he's lost himself, he's,
Yeah, I think he's killed someone, because he said he's taken someone's life away in the song later.
So he kind of has to make, like, almost like a journey to find himself again. It says, destiny, no good to hide away, can't hide from your destiny. Penance, now will be his only way, he's got to make right what he did wrong. Understand, no good to run away, can't run away from your, like, he's running away, that's what he's doing in the song, but it's not any good, it's not going to do him any good.
Uh-huh.
Penance now will be his saving grace. Got to ask for forgiveness. Got to make things right. That's the thing about, like, I think a song's about kind of like life in general. If you do something bad, you just can't run away from it. That's not the way to make things right. It's not the way to help yourself or help anybody else. So you got to find penance.
Yeah, I think he killed someone in self-defense too, because it said in the song, but in his mind he had no choice, so be it. Something like that. He had to kill somebody, you know?
This is destiny, though. Destiny, no good to hide away. Like,
yeah,
it might have been his like destiny to do this, and now he's done it, and now he kind of like regrets it.
Yeah, the man who would be king. I wonder if it has anything to do with him becoming king. You know,
far, far away, the man who would be king. Far, far away, the man who would be king. So far away.
The man who would be king.
Yeah, I definitely think like the highlight of the song though is like some of the lyrics, and then Davey's solo is really cool.
Yeah, it's good. Out of all the epics, though,
it's the weakest. Yeah, like I say, it kind of reminds me of the Nomad in a way. It's kind of like on that kind of like plane.
Yeah, very cool though. Very cool song. And then we go to the last song on the album, "When the Wild Wind Blows," after the Raymond Briggs short story or comic, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it's kind of loosely based on it because it has a different ending. But like I think it's Steve Epic. So every album now from, I don't know, the X Factor on, we've kind of got these, like, Steve Epics, and he writes it all himself except for the guitar solos. So he does the drums, he does the rhythm guitars, he does everything, the vocals, how they're sung. He sits down and he does this all by himself. And, I mean, what do you think of the song? Do you think it's one of Steve's better epics since the reunion, or do you think it's on the bottom?
In my personal opinion, I think it's one of the weaker of his epics. That's just my personal opinion. If we're talking about since reunion, Blood Brothers,
gotta be one of the better ones.
No More Lies, For the Greater Good of God,
better.
And then this.
And then on the last album, we have another Steve epic.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it blows us away.
I say it's much better than this effort, I think.
But yeah, I think it's on par with No More Lies. I think it might be around that.
I think I like this song maybe a little better than No More Lies, but I think it's less than For the Greater Good of God and a lot less than Blood Brothers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's interchangeable for me between No More Lies.
It's very, very different than anything that Iron Maiden, I think, has written to this point anyway. Has like that slow bass in the intro, and then it goes into the guitar. I mean, I don't want to say the word like childlike, but it is kind of like it's not heavy metal. I wouldn't say the song's heavy metal.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That I understand what
like
you're trying to say.
Like we said, 70s prog maybe.
I understand what you're trying to say with that childlike thing. I get that, and that's one of the reasons why it's not as powerful to me as the other stuff because
obviously the content isn't childlike, but the song kind of is.
The way it sounds. Yeah, it's kind of playful sounding almost. It's kind of upbeat for such a horrible thing, you know.
Which I think it's probably like part of the what Steve was going for.
It was because he changes the ending. When the Wind Blows, the story by Raymond Briggs. There's a couple. Two of them hear about this.
Like an older British couple.
Yeah, an older British couple. There's a thermonuclear war coming, so they're trying to prepare for this fallout. They build a shelter, and they end up living their lives in the shelter, and then they end up getting exposed to radiation and dying. That's how the actual story goes. Well, the way Steve writes it is, it's actually there is no nuclear war. They hear that there's going to be a nuclear war, but they're so caught up in actually preparing for it. That
I think actually an earthquake. An earthquake, and so they go down into their shelter, and they end up
dying in the shelter. They drink poison to kill themselves because they don't want to go outside to the nuclear war because they're afraid to go outside.
Yeah, what's the point of like living if everything's destroyed?
Exactly, but that really wasn't though. That's the point.
It's kind of like an irony. Like this song's more about irony, where the other where the story is about. It's a very sad story. This old older couple that dies. You know, it's kind of like
they lived their life the way they wanted to.
Yeah,
and this one's kind of like you didn't listen to any. You did what you wanted to do, but you kind of like
believe in your superstitions or maybe like what was going to happen.
And it harkens back to the rest of them about believing in organized religion, and believing in what people tell you, believing in what news tells you, going to war for a cause that you're not really 100% sure you're going to fight for it. Like it's the same thing.
I like the production of this album, and I like the production of this song. Like it sounds cool, and it has like kind of like a bunch of cool changes to the song. Like it goes to that like really heavy rhythm part. I like if the song changes. They've been preparing for some weeks now. Like I like the song, but I just don't think it like lives up to some of the other like songs on this album and some of the other Steve epics that he's written.
Yeah, I agree with
you. It's a little disappointing. Not a lot disappointing, just a little.
Yeah, a little disappointing. And up to this point, before Book of Souls came out, this was the second longest song they ever did. It's 11 minutes long, and it feels like it's over in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a very long song.
It doesn't feel like it, but it's 11 minutes. But I mean, this whole album is great musically. It's great, lyrically. It's just in terms of listenability. Let's talk about that. What do you think of listenability was?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you have to give it a pretty bad score listenability wise because you're skipping like four songs right off the bat sometimes.
What do you
not all the time, but listenability wise.
Yeah, listenability wise. What do you rank listenability?
Like a 6.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's probably about a 6 for me too.
Because of how good the end of the album is, but
yeah, how kind of weak the top half is. What about production? Let's save artwork for last.
Production. I actually like the production on the album. It sounds good. The guitars are good. It has a kind of a spacey delay feeling a lot of the times. So I give the production like an 8, 8.5. Like I actually kind of like it.
I give the production an 8.5 as well. That's what I'm sitting at, an 8.5 out of 10. Very different from Maiden and progressive. Very progressive.
I like the albums that have their own identity, that they all don't sound alike. Like a lot of groups' albums, they all kind of sound alike. Mm-hmm. And this one definitely does it. It doesn't sound anything like them out of Life and Death.
Now let's get to the album cover and the artwork. Wow. What do you think about this one?
I think this album cover is like classic Iron Maiden that they haven't done since I don't know, Fear the Dark, Seventh Son, like way back in the day.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like, if you guys haven't seen the Final Frontier album cover, it kicks ass. I mean, it's Eddie. He's like an alien. He has like brain damage going on in his head. He has these huge fangs.
He's some sort of monster. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in space. Like he's actually holding on to like this thing where there's a bunch of skulls that look like there's a bunch of other aliens there who look kind of like Eddie. He has a key in his hand, and he's floating in outer space. There's a moon behind him. He's in some like derelict or blown up ship. Maybe the ship from the Final Frontier at the beginning where he says, "I'm stranded in space and lost no trace. I haven't a chance of getting away." If you guys ever watched the music video, actually Eddie entered this guy's ship and destroys it. So maybe that's what this is.
What do you think he's holding in his hand?
It's a key. It's a key to something.
Is he putting like that guy's head or what?
I don't know what he's doing.
The guy, like the guy below him, is like also a skeleton, but he's also an alien, right? It's not a human. It's not a human skeleton. It's an alien of like the same race that he is. and the side of his helmet's like blown off.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it's interesting.
It is interesting, and
I mean, I guess that's the point, is you to, like, look at these album covers and kind of, like, it's not something, like, you look at it once and be like, oh, yeah, this is, like, this going on, that's going on, and that's it. Like, you can kind of stare at a lot of Iron Maiden's album covers for a while, at least the really good ones, and be like, oh, this is cool. Like, I never noticed, like, this or this before.
Yeah, it's fantastic album cover. I love it. I mean, it's awesome. There's, like, blood floating. You can tell he's in space. There's, like, no gravity because there's blood floating in outer space.
And it has, like, off to the bottom left, it kind of has a Eddie, and it has, like, skull and crossbones, but they're alien. They're kind of like an alien race like he is. Yeah,
it's actually 2 keys in a skull. 2 of the keys he has in his hand in a skull.
So is this key, like, your key to, like, enlightenment? You know, is it kind of like that? Is it
a key to transcending time and space?
Yeah.
Is it a key to start the aircraft? Who knows? I mean, you don't know. But it looks amazing. I love the yellow font they use for the text of Final Frontier. It harkens back to Somewhere in Time, the album, where they use yellow text and font for futuristic stuff.
The colors on this album cover are great. Like, the way they blend together, the greens and the reds and the blues, and, like, it all really, really works, and it fits the album perfectly.
And as amazing as it looks, you guys would think this was Derek Riggs, right? Wrong. But it's somebody who we talked about before, Mr. Melvin Grant, who's done a lot of stuff with the band. He did the Fear the Dark album cover. He did the Virtual Eleven album cover. He did the Benny Brieg album cover.
Yeah, which is one of the best that they've ever done.
Now he's done the Final Frontier actual album cover, which is amazing. What about the lone single that they released from this album, Eldorado? What do you think about that cover?
It's actually like a comic book.
Yeah, it's a comic book.
You know, sketch, or like maybe like a B movie from like the 50s or 60s or whatever. I really like it, actually.
Yeah, or like a sci-fi kind of like comic book.
Yeah, like you're watching like Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's kind of like that. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, there's a guy named Anthony Dry who worked on this cover illustration, and then Peacock, who they utilized on a bunch of the they utilized Peacock on Brave New World and Dance of Death stuff. He also helped with cover illustration for Eldorado.
I'm the Jester with No Tears, and I'm playing on your fears.
Yeah, Jester with No Tears. I think that's actually a song by some prog. There's a song with that by a prog band who's English back in the 60s. I can't remember their name, but I think that's where they
incredible sci-fi stories from the Final Frontier.
Fantastic! I love the album. I love the album art on this album. I love it.
Maybe that's what the album's about. Incredible sci-fi stories from the Final Frontier.
Could be. I mean, that would make sense.
The album's like full of short sci-fi stories, like from a comic book.
Think about that. That's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a theory too. Awesome. But we talked about listenability.
So what would you give the album cover?
Talk about production. Talk about art. I'm giving the album covers a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, like, it's hard. There's only 2, which is kind of like holding me back a little bit, like giving it a real high score, but the 2 that we got are really good, so it's kind of hard not to give it a good grade like that.
Giving it 9 out of 10. Yeah. Listenability, we said 6 of 10. Production, we give 8.5 of 10.
Oh boy, you gotta think of an album grade now. This is the hardest
9
one.
Of 10.
This album grade is the hardest one to give so far out of the reunion era albums. I don't know what to give, because I gave Brave New World a 9, I believe.
I think you gave Brave New World a higher.
Or 9.5 or 9.4 or something. That's right. And I gave Dance of Death like an 8 or 8.5. And I gave A Matter of Life and Death. We both gave A Matter of Life and Death a 10. So this, I'm going to give it like an 8.25.
I'm giving it an 8.5. I think it's right up there with Dance of Death. I think they're about the same kind of quality.
But that goes along with our grades. I'm always a little lower than your grade. So, I mean, we all have a pretty similar idea of what the album is.
Yeah, I think if you're comparing this to the rest of the reunion albums thus far, it's very much like Dance of Death. It has really, really great songs on it, and then it has some songs that are just good.
Yeah. Well, let's rate the reunion albums here. Like, if we both agree Matter Life and Death's the best, right?
Absolutely.
And we both agree that Brave New World is second best.
Very close, yeah.
So you think this is above Dance to Death or below? Or like right there?
I think it's right there.
Some days I think the Answer Death's better, and some days I think Final Frontier is better.
And the reason why that is because Maiden crafts the subject matter and the themes. If I'm feeling like in a science fiction-y, like futuristic, mode or mythological mode,
this is your jam.
I'm listening to this. If I'm feeling like a more gothic kind of like
medieval,
medieval middle age kind of vibe, it's going to be Dance of Death. But yeah, so there you go. That's Final Frontier. If you guys, thought the album wasn't that great because you listened to the first half and you didn't see it building and building and building, you kind of just put the rest of the album off.
Maybe we gave you some ideas to think about with the idea of being on voyages and journeys and enlightenment, discovery.
Yeah, transcending yourself and being your own person. A lot of science fiction. We talk about science fiction in our podcast.
We didn't even talk about like our love for science fiction in the podcast because it probably would have went another hour. But
Matt loves Star Trek. The Final Frontier. I love Star Trek too. I came into it later, and he kind of introduced me to that. But
I mean, a lot of other sci-fi. We talked about the Star Maker of this podcast. I mean, you could talk about any number of sci-fi stories. Absolutely. From Heinlein, Arthur C. Clarke, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I mean, that could fit perfectly into this album.
And a lot of the warnings of science fiction is about fearing organized religion. It's about
There's a book by Joseph Campbell called The Inner Limits of Outer Space.
There you go. Great book.
And that's basically what this album's about.
Absolutely.
It's about finding yourself in a journey through outer space.
Another thing I wanted to mention before we enter, I'm going to get back to Starblind real quick because I want to touch on that. Another thing about Starblind that talks about the fear of organized religion and not buying an organized religion. Starblind, science fiction, and like Matt said with The Alchemist, about how alchemy led to chemistry, and all these sciences led to something. Back in the day, you weren't allowed to have an opinion because of the Catholic Church or organized religion about science. Europe, Galileo Galilei got burned alive. Copernicus got murdered.
Well, Galileo didn't get burned alive. He got house arrest.
There you go. He got exiled and house arrest. Yeah.
Copernicus. I don't remember what happened to Copernicus.
I know it wasn't good. Whatever happened.
Nothing that happened to a lot of these guys was good. It was very secretive. You always had to like when you did, like they were observing space. They were kind of like, we're proving Aristotle right.
Exactly, and that's the whole point of Starblind too, and that's what we want to touch on, and that's kind of the point of science fiction too, and that's the point of the album. Like you're basically putting down people who have these brilliant ideas, and you can't be yourself because you're adhering to some kind of rules and regulations that are just like man-made. They're really nothing.
It reminds me of a line from Jurassic Park, where he talks about discovery being a violent act, and it goes back to like not just like in a like fiction world like Jurassic Park, but into like Galileo and all those guys from the Renaissance. Their discovery was a violent act of going against the establishment. It's very dangerous, and it cost a lot of people their lives and a lot of people their livelihoods, and it's kind of like how the album is too. I mean, like a lot of that discovery is going to come at a cost.
Exactly. Same thing with When the Wild Wind Blows and the way Steve wrote it. They didn't want to go out and discover what was outside because they were too afraid of hearing the news that there was a fallout.
Kind of like the anti the other songs.
It's the anti. So then they end up killing themselves because they don't want to discover anything because they go with the status quo. They believe everything they're told. So, listen, we're telling you this, and you should believe this because it's true. Listen to The Final Frontier. First half of the album might be weaker. Second half of the album is great. 8.5 for me, 8.25 for Matt. Yeah. Next, we're going to be talking about En Vivo, the live show based on the Final Frontier album.
Yeah, and our experience with the Final Frontier tour, which is different than En Vivo.
And so we'll talk about that our experience with the Final Frontier tour, like Matt said, and the really reunion album focused tour that we got to see in 2010,
which is awesome.
Shows. Amazing. But anyways, guys, we rambled on this a lot. We apologize. But this has been a Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. We appreciate you guys listening. Please follow us on Instagram. Please follow us on Facebook. Please keep hitting up the YouTube page and commenting and liking our videos. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, if you comment on our videos, we'll respond. Or tell us something we missed or we got wrong. That's great too. I mean, we're all about learning new things, and I never have a problem being corrected.
Yep, and remember, you are free to choose a life to live or one that's left to lose.
Absolutely.
Take care, guys. See you next time.